Welcome back to Gaijin Hideout. I'm Jeff. I'm a streamer that loves Monster Hunter, and I'm live right now playing Monster Hunter Wilds with chat over at twitch.tv/Gaijin Hideout. And I wanted to take a moment before I got any further and just give my review or my thoughts on the low rank in the low rank / campaign for Monster Hunter Wilds. I really right now I'm playing high rank, so I'm just kind of grinding out a Gipseros. Is kind of, you guys will have seen this in the beta. They put him at Endgame, but I wanted to talk about low rank before I get any further away from it. So for context, I've got about I guess I'm coming up on 40 hours total experience right now in the game, and about 22 of that 23 hours went into the campaign. The campaign in this game is low rank. Is just entirely low rank. Like the credits roll and low rank is done, basically. You get onboarded into high rank. So I'll go into some of the details, but I just want to say at the start that this low rank was the best low rank out of any Monster Hunter I've ever played. It was very good. Very good. I've only played, I'm kind of a noob to Monster Hunter. I'm over 500 hours experience, but I've only played World. I played Monster Hunter World and Iceborne, and then I've played Rise, but not Sunbreak. And then I got into this game. But as someone who was recently very new to the game, this is like the game with the campaign to like get your friends who have never played Monster Hunter into Monster Hunter, because it does a fantastic job of using the campaign to guide you through the open worlds, like the very seamless open worlds that they have, and tantalize you with it, and then periodically pause and allow you to explore and grind at your own pace, while gradually introducing different mechanics that are relevant to, you know, your role as a hunter across the story. But they do it in a way where it doesn't feel like a tutorial. There's nothing that feels very like obligatory, like no fetch quests, no like repeat quests, no, like the fat has been trimmed substantially. So like compared to something like World, that is like a huge improvement, I would say, overall. Like huge improvement, because you know, really, like in these other Monster Hunter games I've played, the low rank is kind of like, you're kind of suffering through it, especially if you've already played one before. You're kind of like, okay, I know what I need to do. Oh, okay, we got to do this now. Oh, we got to do, oh, fetch quest. Oh, this. Oh, it's Eon Kutku for the second time, you know. Oh, or no, sorry, not Eon Kutku. Who is it that we fight? Kulu-Yaku in World. There's no dumb chicken that you have to fight 3 times. It is like, it's an open world, but they have used that open world to insert a linear story where they traverse throughout these different open worlds that are interconnected, showcase different monsters that are all cooler than most of what you've seen in a low rank game, at least recently, and by the end of it, it gets so epic and intense that like you'd think you're playing high rank, you know. Some things to get into about that in particular, I guess. You know, before I go back into, I guess, glazing the game, because I'm saying it's really good. You know, there are some things that aren't great about it. Like it's a little slow at the start. I think it's easiest for me if I just go through it linearly. So like at the start of the game, you know, you're sort of being onboarded into it, and like a lot of the first half of the campaign is definitely the weakest part, and in several ways. And it could have just been because I was getting used to the game, getting the game set up. But I do think a lot of it was just the first half of the campaign is a little bit weaker, and the second half of the campaign is where it really picks up. So like at the start, there's a on rails mission that's like introducing you into the whole world. You know, like you're brand new. And I had a major technical bug at the beginning with that. And then additionally, when I got into that area, just the lighting and the way stuff looked was like kind of weird, and I had to fiddle with the settings for a bit. So like as an initial experience, some of that was a little rocky. And then some of the story progression was a little arbitrary in the beginning. Like you were like, you know, you had your main goal. You were helping I won't spoil the story, but there was a main goal you were progressing towards. But then a lot of the story spent time like, look, we're in these villages, and look, we're yapping with the villagers, and we're like getting along, and we're all such great friends, and la-di-da. And it felt just very like what are we doing? Like, where are the monsters? And then the monsters would show up, and you're like, oh, okay, now there's monsters and stuff. And so it kind of felt like it was a little slow at the start for a lot of reasons. But I will say, like 10 hours in, you know, and that's just like me being picky. Like, it was still fun. I was hunting monsters. It was doing a good job introducing me to the world, tantalizing me with the world. I was just more interested in the world at that point than I was the campaign itself. But I will say, like 10 hours in, I think, like about halfway through, it absolutely picks up. And it picks up in a major way. Like, the monsters that they start introducing, you know, the Apex monsters were pretty cool. I didn't like Uthuna, the Ancient Forest one, that much, but, you know, Raidao was obviously cool. New Udra was okay. I'm going to need to fight him again to see how much I like him. But without, I guess, spoiling too much, like, pretty much beyond that point, beyond the oil well basin, it starts to get absolutely insane, the kinds of monsters that are introduced, and the and like the story mechanics that they use to explain why they are the way that they are. Because some of them are familiar, some of them are new, but the ones that look familiar, there's like some weirdness going on with them, I'll just say, and it's pretty incredible. Like the design and the fights, they were very fun. Like, they were some of the most fun I've had in Monster Hunter was fighting those. And pretty much from that point onwards, as the monsters started to get more and more like cool and intense, it like corresponded with the story escalating into something more linear and with more focus and direction. Pretty much, okay, I'll just give us a quick spoiler. Pretty much you get this kid, so spoiler warning, but like 10 hours in, you get this kid reunited with his father at his camp that he thought, or at his village that he thought was dead, and from where that he thought had been wiped out or whatever. And from then on, like, the story's incredible. So like the real story starts, and the story gets like insane. There's the Guardian monsters that come in. There's and they're all awesome, like Guardian Rathalos, Guardian Ebony Odog. Trying to think who else. Well, there's a Guardian in high rank, but I won't get into it. But they're like mutated. The lore's like they've been mutated. They're genetically altered monsters created by an ancient civilization to wipe people, to protect them, but then it was they were wiped out by them. And it's like a trope I've heard before, but it just works perfectly for this. Damn, he blinded me. For this game, for this series, it's like, it's like hearing stuff that they would put in Jurassic Park, but without having watched Jurassic Park, and then you see Jurassic Park, and you're like, oh, that plot point, that trope, that was made for Jurassic Park. It's like, genetically altered monsters, from an ancient civilization, and the fallout from them still walking around like zombies and all this other stuff. Like, it was made for Monster Hunter, and to justify the developers doing crazy stuff with all their different, with the new monsters they introduced, the old monsters they introduced, stuff like that. But yeah, so basically, without rambling too much, like, the story really escalates from the second half on. I start caring a lot more about the campaign, just, and not just like, oh, these monsters are really cool, this is really fun. And they start throwing multiple hunts at you without a real chance to pause, and upping the challenge. And I actually think, even though it's it was low rank, it was actually very challenging for low rank by the end of it. By the, but definitely from this halfway point onward that I'm talking about. But it helps that they've buffed the absolute hell out of the Palico. So I think, like, even a beginner is still going to be okay with this. I turned the Palico off eventually because I was like, this is a little much. But it also made me think, I was like, okay, well, this kind of also allows them to like let a beginner like go on this epic hunt or this epic quest and experience like the intensity of Monster Hunter, but still in low rank. So basically, by the very end of it, when you're fighting the flagship monster and then you're fighting the real boss afterwards, the game is incredible. And those are some of the best fights I've ever experienced in Monster Hunter. So that is, again, this is spoilers, I guess. But like, so that's Arkveld is the flagship. And then right after you fight Zoshia. And Zoshia is, well, I won't get into what it is, but it is like an insane monster. It's morphing. It's like this insane hybrid of like a Xenojiva, a Safi Jiva fight and a like freaking Alatreon fight and a Fatalis fight. Like it's that level of like insanity and complexity going on with the monster, if not more. But it's been scaled down for a for the low rank campaign and like tailored to low rank. So it's hard. I carded, you know, I definitely carded. But I was having trouble with it, like especially the last one. But it, you know, they give you a run for your money, but they keep you. They did a good job, like staying constrained within, you know, still making it beatable for low rank, basically. So I go through all this to just really highlight that. Oh, and the Arkveld fight is just like the most joy I've ever experienced, and I can't wait to go back to fighting him again in high rank. So basically, like they have really gone from like mission driven, you know, a mission driven story with kind of boring tutorial monsters and padded fetch quests and stuff like that. You know, in World, I guess you could say they did that in World. And then in Rise, they did what? They did the village quest where the monsters were nerfed, and then they sort of transitioned you into low rank for the story in the hub. And then, but that was all kind of clumsy, but it was a little bit more accessible, a little bit more of an on-ramp, a little less boring. And then to this one, where it is just an incredible campaign by the end. You know, it's a little flawed at the start, but or like a little mediocre at times. You know, in the first 10 hours. But I really got to emphasize, like the campaign was like it just escalated to the point where it was just phenomenal. You know, and relatively shortly. So overall, I guess I'm describing like the progression of the story and everything. The gameplay itself is just awesome. It's great. Like the focus mode is awesome. You know, I don't know all the different weapons, but just the way everything moves and feels, hit, stop, sound design, music, like everything, they really went over the top and very early on, you know. They went over the top. Honestly, like some of the monsters they saved for high rank are less like impressive or cool looking than even like hold on. I'm not falling for that again. Not falling for that mid rant. But yeah, honestly, some of the monsters that they saved for you know, the post credits in high rank, they're like less impressive or less remarkable than a lot of the monsters that were introduced pretty early on in low rank. So, you know, like the gameplay itself was phenomenal all the way through, I think. But just the pacing, the vibe, the monsters that you get introduced to, especially by the end, were just really something special. I think my favorite hunts were. It was probably Guardian Rat. It was probably in order. It was probably. I don't know if we count the last one, but if we are, I guess it's Arkveld, Zoshua, and then Zhuwu and Guardian Rathalos. Guardian Rathalos, they beefed the hell out of Rathalos in this game. Zhuwu is a second octopus monster that they did not advertise at all in the promo material, and it beats the brakes off of New Udra. It might actually be a squid, I'm not sure, but it's like a ninja squid, and its design is incredible. Its design looks like something out of like something more dark fantasy than Dark Souls, like Dark Souls but more dark fantasy. Like it's like incredible. And the fight was incredible. The Arkveld fight is like pure dopamine. It was insane, especially maybe just with the weapon that I played. It was incredible. And the Guardian Rathalos was a really cool fight as well. So those were probably my favorite, and they all took place in the second half of the game. So the Guardian monsters I really can't underscore enough. They really have a huge cool factor to them, and that's kind of like my main takeaways. It's like, man, I almost feel like they put more emphasis on more effort into the second half of the campaign than the first half. Like, because the second half is just where they really got it figured out, and it really came into its own. In terms of weapons, so I mained the dual blades. That was like my experience. That's what I've been doing. I was doing it in Rise, and I just wanted to keep going with it. Dual blades is sick in this game. It's got, you've got this demon dodge that gives you hyper armor if you nail the dodge right. And it just feels silky smooth. The focus strike is insane. You look like Levi from Attack on Titan. If that's not your thing, if quick stuff with small damage isn't your thing, I don't know. There's definitely an option for you. Broken weapon, please nerf. Okay, dude. All right, yeah. Some people are saying it may be a broken weapon. I honestly don't know because I went in from using it in Rise. My one complaint is that the drip. Okay, so the drip in this game is insane. Like, I think you can see that for yourself. Like, the way you look and stuff is awesome. Like, all the armor and stuff looks awesome. I think the drip distribution is a little skewed. Dual Blades has some okay weapons. I think the the Ebony Odog drip blades. Oh yeah, honorable mention. Ebony Odog was a crazy Guardian. Ebony Odog was a crazy fight. That was really fun as Dual Blades. But yeah, basically, what was I gonna say? Oh, the weapons that like have the coolest designs seem to be Greatsword and Longsword. So if you're trying to look really dope, I might suggest checking out Greatsword and Longsword, because they had really cool designs. And some of like the coolest looking monsters that you might have been hyped for in the trailers or something like that, they do not have dual blades weapons. So I would like to see like maybe more support for all the different monsters, but I can kind of see why they might have not chosen to do it that way, because it does feel like in this game it was very streamlined so that I had exactly the amount of dual blades that would be necessary. Maybe a few less though, because I went the whole low rank without having access to ice dual blades or lightning dual blades. So it was a little weird. That was a little weird, but again, the overall experience was incredible. And I really enjoy dual blades. I plan on trying other weapons in the future, but I really wanted to just get in and focus on just the dual blades. Although there was one moment where I switched to Lance in the moment randomly, so that I could break a wing from Ray Dow to get some armor that I needed, because I couldn't reach it with dual blades. And I actually had no problem just doing that. I was like, I had some spare mats and I just went out and just like did my best and figured it out. And that's a constantly evolving theme with low rank, I would say, is that you're really able to experiment and explore periodically throughout the game. And I actually have two friends that have played Monster Hunter for the first time, and they both like, they didn't just like go like raw dog the campaign, beat it as fast as possible. They both like stopped multiple times and went out into the open world and grinded and tried different things. So they were taking advantage of it. So yeah, that's kind of my general opinions of the game. I guess it's been mostly upside that I'm talking about. Downsides, there's a few obvious ones people are covering, and I have a couple as well. Performance is like definitely an issue, I would say. I think it's fair to say. And the thing is, the game is fun regardless of the performance. So like, I'm just going with it. But I periodically, let me see what I'm on right now. You can even see it in this review. I think there was like the frames were pretty rough. I do stream though. I do stream. I'm streaming while I'm recording this and stuff. So, but I have a 4080 graphics card. I have an AMD card that's pretty old, or a few years old, and some RAM. So I have a pretty good computer, and I'm really only able to. What do we have here? What do I have it on? I've got it on high right now. So high is kind of high for me was good for a lot of the game, but if I was fighting a boss with a lot of particle effects or something like that, I would have to drop it down to medium. I can actually do that here just for the heck of it in the game, actually, just so you can see. So I found myself having to switch between high and medium. That was definitely a problem. You know, I wish I could be able to. Oh God, look at the frames. Look what just happened when I switched. I don't even know what happened there. Oh, and we're good now. So it's pretty rough. I'm generally averaging between 30 and 40 frames. I'm in the 30s and 40s. And so if you're like a frame rate snob or something like that, you know, that's going to be a problem unless you have a really good PC, like a really good PC. So it's definitely a problem. It's definitely something to consider. I don't think anybody playing on console sounds like but I'm on PC, so I don't think anybody playing on console has a real issue with how the game's performing. I think this is largely just a PC gamer issue, but that is kind of a problem. Beyond that, there was like bugs and stuff like that. Like I said, I mentioned there was a really bad bug at the very start of the game. Which was unfortunate, but I fixed it. But basically, I made a YouTube short of it, so you can look at it. But I went on the on-rails mission. There's a moment where a Balahara is supposed to like, a Balahara is supposed to create a sand pit and suck you in, and then you're supposed to grab screamer pods and shoot him off, and or shoot them at him to like make him stop the sand pit, I guess. And when he created the sand pit, the like it was like a huge explosion, huge particle effects and stuff. And I guess something went wrong, and there was like this like grayish, like gray jello rectangle that spawned in under him. It almost looked like someone theorized it was actually this oil silt that's here in oil. I'm in the oil well basin right now that like spawned in instead of his actual, like what you were supposed to, like what was supposed to spawn in. But basically it looked like some gray invisible barrier he was just like sitting in at the bot, you know, and it was like sloping into the hole and coming out. It was really weird. It felt like like I was in Gary's mod or something. And like, my screamer pods were not affecting him as long as they were breaching that barrier. So I had to just very carefully aim at the head. It just kind of totally messed up the experience, I guess. You know, and there's like a couple of things with like triangles, like big black triangles like coming out of monsters sometimes. That still happens. So you've got bugs, you've got issues. That made your camera flicker, LMAO. Yeah, and you saw that just now too, you know. So there's issues. There's issues with the game. What else? I've had issues like right now I can't get the game to run unless I run it in. I can't run it from Steam. It crashes on startup now. So I have to run it in administrator mode by right clicking on the what do you call it? On the exe file directly. So that's an issue. Yeah, I would just generally say performance is kind of an issue. So if you don't like that, I think that's totally valid. But for me, I'm a huge fan of these games, and I definitely wanted to play it day one. And I'm looking forward to seeing how quickly they fix it. But it wasn't a deal breaker for me. I think that's because, generally speaking, there's a certain amount of this game that's not very realistic. Like, you're fighting monsters, and as you're fighting the monsters, you're like figuring out combos that you're supposed to be doing and placement, and you know, there's a lot of like metagame analysis going on in your head. And I don't think it's an action RPG, which is kind of like a sped up turn-based RPG. at the end of the day. We've talked about that a few times on this channel. So you are still kind of role playing. You are kind of in your head. So as a result, like, I don't think it needs to be perfect to be fun. Like, I've played older action RPGs that, look like shit, run like shit, that kind of thing. But if the loop is fun, the mechanics are fun, and, the general vibe is, is kind of chill, I'll play it. So if it's an if kind of thing, like if you're just, your standard modern gamer and you're looking to like see if this is gonna be up to snuff for the other games, this may be a deal breaker for you until they fix it on PC at least. But if you're like an action RPG fan, a Monster Hunter fan, that kind of thing, I would say get it, like, because it's really fun. It's really fun, and for what it's worth, the two people that I indoctrinated into this game that were Monster Hunter noobs, they're both pretty big on performance and stuff like that, and I don't think it sounds like it really did not bother them and interrupt their experience. So, but I did want to just thoroughly address that, just so people know. And there's no shying away from it or anything. I don't want to do any of that here. It's definitely a problem. I wish it wasn't like that. But I wish for a lot of things, and the main thing I wish for is games that are fun, and this game is fun. It's fun, it's rewarding, and there's a ton of content. So there's that. Other downsides, I don't know. I talked about the story being mediocre at parts. That fixed itself, like I said, at the end. And menus. I think menus are still kind of a problem in this game. Not to go in too hard on it, but I was expecting maybe a bit more streamlined quality of life situation, and it's there. There's some improvements, but to be honest, so like you have this like second, if you see this on my screen, you have this like, when I hold L1, you've got the wheel here that I'm rotating around, the radio menu wheel, and then above it you have this like grid of loadouts that you can navigate through if you've set them up. So you can have 9 separate loadouts, and you navigate them with the face buttons, and it's kind of crazy. There might be a way to change this in settings, but it's like, it's 2 layers of menus while you're running around. So like if I wanted to, I could go over here and get off a little communication thing, like strike a pose or, do a powerful pose. But I have to do it in real time. I have to navigate over and remember where I place stuff. And it's just going to take some getting, it takes some getting used to, just like it did before with the radial menu. But I'll say this, and there's all kinds of like menu, like multi-layered menus like here, but I will say it's a bit more bearable than in World, and they gave you more options for like customization. So overall, I think it's an improvement. It's just not as much of an improvement as I was hoping for. And then I think in terms of online, the online features, that just kind of ties more into menus. I think like the online features is a good example of like, it's like menus are just like the menus being kind of inherently a bit confusing. I'm constantly forgetting like how to like switch to the online mode to check different things. We have communication, we have info. What do we have? Yeah, just, I don't know, just like the way that these menus are set up, it's hard to remember where stuff is, and like not all of these things are created equal, I guess. Like there's communication, chat log, link party, member list, voice chat, invite a friend, invitation list, away notice, and signal. And I'm usually going here to find link party to link up with somebody. So like that's an example of like the menus being hard to navigate. But if you've been playing Monster Hunter forever, that's like kind of a non-issue. But like if you're new to Monster Hunter, it's like that is like the one that's like a surface level complaint, I guess. But I think it's a valid one that they could work on over time. It's like, just imagine like just really deep, really fun experience where you're getting a ton of dopamine and stuff, but you kind of have to like use Microsoft Teams to like manage it. Okay, maybe not that bad, maybe that's a little mean, but I was hoping that would get fixed a bit more, is my point. And it didn't quite. But these are relatively minor complaints. I think if I had to rate this game as it is, or I'm just talking about the low rank, I guess. For the low rank in this game, I would probably give it like a solid 9. You know, like 9 out of 10. And that's like a substantial improvement over World. I think World, the base game for World, I would give the base game like a 7.5. Or, sorry, the low rank portion of World, I would give like a 7. World's story went low rank to high rank, so altogether I would give it an 8 because high rank I think got a little bit better. And then with an 8 or an 8.5, and then Iceborne made that game like a 9.5 for me, like the expansion. So this game more or less just like it built on a lot of that and built it into low rank, which was like a pleasant surprise, I guess. And so as a result, like yeah, it's like a 9 for me. Like it was a great campaign experience. One parting thought that I'll leave, I'll end with because I wasn't really sure where to put it while I was saying all this. There was talk that the campaign is short, and I'm going to make a separate video on this, so I don't want to get too much into it. But there was talk that the separate campaign is short, or that the campaign is short and/or easy. I've talked about it a bit, so I think it should be clear. But just in case it's not clear, I don't really consider it easy. I definitely consider that like I improved drastically with my skills in Monster Hunter. But I mean, I was not doing well at all against that final boss. Like I beat it, but I carded once or twice, and it was sloppy. So it gave me. So I have over 500 hours, you know, playtime in Monster Hunter, and it was giving me a run for my money by the end in low rank. And that's not really because they buffed up the monsters like stats wise. It's because they introduced like sophisticated, like monsters with sophisticated attack patterns that you were used to seeing in master rank into low rank. And they just made it feasible for you to do that even with less experience. So I personally like do not consider this game like to be super easy mode. The gameplay itself is it's a lot more fun. It's a lot more accessible. Focus mode is a huge game changer. I think everybody's talked to hell and back about focus mode, but it is a huge game changer. I think to the extent if I find myself wanting more of a challenge in the future, well, first of all, I'm pretty confident from what I've seen in high rank that there is a challenge. But if I find myself wanting more of a challenge in the future, I could see them very easily building on this to something that's actually challenging and not just like, oh, we made the health bar bigger, or we made this more frustrating or something like that. So I really think there's a lot of potential in the way that they've redone the combat and everything like that, to where you could see like a kind of difficulty scaling in the future, especially in like an expansion pack or something that you haven't seen before. That actually feels truly fair. I'm going to save my thoughts for this for like another video, but you know, there's a lot of definitions of what hard is supposed to be, and including on the game developer side, and I don't even think the best game developers get it right all the time. You can see the final boss of Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree and like the controversy around that, you know, as an example. Like I don't think, you know, it's not that they're bad, but it's not that they're like 100% right. And I think with this gameplay that they've done in Monster Hunter, I think they would be able to scale the difficulty up to like insane levels without like it feeling like bullshit. So, but that's kind of a separate topic. But in terms of it being in low rank, it was not easy. The monsters were giving me a run for my money. They were going for my throat. And I also don't think it was short. I spent 22 hours in it. I would have spent only 15 hours in it if I never explored anything. So if there's like a reviewer out there, it's like, I beat it in 10 hours. I beat it in 15 hours. It's like they just gunned it through the stories. They just through the campaign. And the campaign is intentionally taking you across these like open areas just to like explore. Like it's there to tell the story, but it's very clearly like tantalizing you with like, look at this open world that you could go explore. And then they say, okay, well, let's go prepare for the next part, and you tell me when you're ready. and they leave you in a camp that you can just immediately exit and go into that open world. Like, it's very clearly telling you, hey, you can now check out this whole area, hunt all those monsters, and grind whatever kind of weapons you want. So I grinded all the dual blades weapons for all the different elements, because dual blades works well with different elemental weapons. And I put on an extra 6 or 7 hours on top of the 15 that it would have taken me to beat it if I was just raw dogging the main mission set, basically, or like the campaign. So I kind of generally just contest that criticism that people were bringing up. I think the bigger criticism is performance and like ease of use. Still, like menu stuff is still, like, if you're thinking really like accessible for like new players and still making the game work, like still making it a Monster Hunter game. They chose to make it still a Monster Hunter game in some ways, and just like still leave everyone to suffer with how they do menus and stuff like that. And then the performance issue is the other obvious issue. But this easy thing, where it's too easy, like, I really don't know where that came from. So I just wanted to add that at the end as well. But yeah, that's my review. Those are my initial thoughts, I guess. Or my thoughts on low rank, my review, whatever you want to call it. I just wanted to get that out of my system before we get too far into high rank and I start getting my ass kicked by something, and I can start getting angry at the game and blaming and start taking points off, out of pure spite, So, but that's all I've got. Check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/Gaijin Hideout. I'm streaming every day this week, and then I'll be streaming the game regularly beyond that. Yeah. Let me know if you agree with the review in the comments down below. And thanks so much for watching. Peace out.